so I wouldn't hear it even. The modern Skype doesn't seem to handle that. The old Skype, you could choose to ring speakers, but use headphones. But
right. Send the tweet out because I've great. I'm in pre-embedded stuff. I could do it at lunchtime today, and so it's all set. So it saves me so much live fiddling.
let's see if my I've got my micro or mini display port to HDMI. After I managed to break my display port, sorry, not display port, my my Miracast unit.
Oh, tell us about that
then. Yeah, the perils of IT.
Yes,
it was working perfectly. Then I updated the firmware.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yes. Right, let's get the chat window up.
Okay. My levels are okay. Yep. Bit quiet.
I can hear a Skype ringing somewhere.
Yeah, so can I. Nope. It's one of these. It's my Toshiba Windows 10 device. Or is it? I don't know which. I can't. Everybody's got the headphones. Hang on. It's just Toshiba. I think. Ah, there it is. Oh, yes. Decline. There we go. Well, it just proves that Windows 10 and Skype works.
It certainly does. I'm just trying to get my app, get the chat room authorized. See if it's going to work. Oh. Aha!
Oh.
The perils of having two keyboards in front of you. I keep typing the wrong one.
I've only got three in front of me.
Move that well out of the way. Tonight's show is brought to you by the Surface Pro 3, a Microsoft Bluetooth touch mouse, and a wedge keyboard.
Oh, very nice. Well, good evening, Jason.
Hello, hello. Good evening to you, Ian.
So you're using your Surface Pro 3 with the touch. Is it the Microsoft Wedge mouse?
Yeah, no, I've got the Microsoft Wedge keyboard,
right?
Which is the Bluetooth one, and then I've got. I don't like the Wedge mouse. I just don't like the look of it. So I've got the. I can't remember which one it's called. It's a Bluetooth. No, can't remember what the exact model is. Let me try and flip the case off. See if it's printed on it. No. It's the little Bluetooth mouse anyway. The one with the Windows key on the side.
Right. Yeah.
I can't remember the exact model.
So why use a mouse and keyboard?
Only because I've got my Surface Pro 3 docked.
Oh, I see.
Right. And I've also got I've just received today the mini DisplayPort to HDMI converter.
Right.
So I'm using it on my big screen. So it means that the Surface Pro 3 is slightly off to my left. So while I could use the keyboard, it would kind of be a bit awkward. So yeah, I'd tell you what would have been quite nice if Microsoft hadn't discontinued that little Bluetooth adapter for the Type keyboards.
Yes, you could separate it, couldn't you?
Yeah. I thought that was. I mean, obviously it didn't sell very well, but I thought that was a really clever little accessory that would have been really useful. Because then, like I say, I wouldn't need the Wedge keyboard. I'd just use the Microsoft touch Type keyboard, which I really like. I mean, I use it all the time. It's the only reason is because I say that the positioning of the Surface Pro 3 would make it awkward for using the bigger screen. It's a bit like when you have a laptop with a bigger screen. You tend not to use the laptop keyboard, but you use a separate keyboard.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I used to do that, but I sort of convinced me, educated myself, so I don't need to do that. So I've now got three. People laugh at me at work because I've got three screens, a laptop, well, two screens, the laptop, and usually a selection of devices. But and I've got a new device to add to that list now.
Yes,
because I've got a Surface Pro 3.
Hey, which one did you go for?
The i5.
Yes, yeah.
So my reasoning behind it was, well, I wanted a machine that I could do the video editing because I'm trying to get more videos on our YouTube channel, which you should check out and subscribe, all listeners, because that'll help us out greatly. So video editing has been a bit of a nightmare on devices because it's resource intensive. Not so much the rendering side, which you kind of, you edit the video. I'm sure most people have done it, but if you sort of edit the video, put the crossfades and all the bits and pieces, then you render it, and then that takes 20 minutes or whatever. That's fine. I do that, but it's the sort of crossfading and dragging the clips around and all that kind of stuff on anything on a lower processor. It's really painful, and the fades on the device I was using, the fades weren't very good, so I couldn't really see what the video would look like till I rendered it. And by then you couldn't be bothered. Can't be bothered going back doing another slight amendment. So anyway. So I wanted a device that could do the video editing and podcast editing as well. So Surface Pro 3 is what I've been sort of eyeing up for a long time now. So so I've got that, and the reason I went for the i5 model was because the i3 I think is not. You want a device like this to last for a long time, don't you? And I think the i3, well, it's a reasonable price, I think it would have less life to it.
Yeah, and I think particularly if you're looking at doing video editing, then I think you need that bit of extra. And I mean, I went for the Core i7 only because I knew I wanted to build some SQL Server VMs, so I needed that bit of extra oomph, and also because it was a business purchase, it's a 3-year cycle, so I needed a bit of life in it. So I decided to go for the top of the range, and so far it's working absolutely brilliant. I mean, I can make it pretty hot when I'm running a SQL cluster with a domain controller and storage and whatnot. I can get it to get pretty hot, but that's understandable. That's not what it's designed for in tablet mode. I mean, tablet mode is absolutely fine.
And the other thing was 64 gig. I think it's a bit skinny for when you start video editing and and anything you want to keep, because essentially what I've got to do with this has got to be the one device that I use for everything personal and TDL. So for my business, my day job, I've got a Lenovo i7, which does, but this Surface isn't for that, and this isn't going on the corporate network. So this has got to do everything: editing, video, audio, photos, blogging, the whole thing. So it's a shame that the Surface 2 has done fantastic work, and I've done a lot of blog posts with that, and it's travelled a long way around the world and European. But this is what I need to the one device. Whereas the Surface 2, I can't edit the video on there without using some pretty poor relation video apps and things like that. So
yeah, exactly. I mean, the Lumia software, while it's good, it's not it's not the most perfect video editing. But I was actually with my parents at the weekend, and my mum was very thankful. She mentioned how in love with her Surface 2 she is. So she finds it absolutely great. She used it for emailing and browsing, and it works absolutely perfectly for her. But you broke some bad news for me today, I think it was.
Well, yeah, we've got. Well, I should say, coming up on the show, we've got good news and bad news.
Yes.
And so we've got a lot of good news, but we've also got some bad news as well. And I also just say on the Surface Pro 3, I will be doing a review at some point, but I think what I'm going to do is use it for a couple of weeks and then write it up rather than a quick sort of first impressions, because I think everybody's done that. Also, I want to say hello to everybody in the chat room, and Jonathan's actually asked questions straight away there. He's thinking of putting Windows 10 on the HP Stream 7. Is it worth it? So I think we'll answer that before we go on to the new stuff. So, well, I don't know whether you can, is the answer. If it's got the compressed boot image, the WinBoot, I'm not sure it will work. If you can get it to work, then yeah, it's great. I mean, I've got the Encore 8 that's a standard install of Windows, because it was from Windows 8, not 8.1, where the compressed image was introduced, and it's working fine, as you could hear from the beginning of the show when the Skype was ringing on it. and it's actually working very well. I don't think I'm quite getting the battery life as I was before, but I can understand that it's not as optimized. And you've got sort of limitations with Windows 10, the odd bugs, but while I wouldn't put Windows 10 on my shiny Surface at the moment, yeah, on something like Stream, you're not it's probably not your business machine that you're relying on. So yeah, I think it's probably you can do it, and that's a good device to try it on if you can get it installed.
Yeah, I know. I think Gary mentioned last week actually that it's not supported at the moment.
Yeah, I think the WinBoot ones aren't supported, so I think you might struggle, Jonathan, to get it on there. Interesting, my son wants a tablet. You know, he's got a new laptop, but he wants a tablet, a small tablet now, and he's been looking at the Stream 7, the Encore 7, the follow up to the one, the Encore Mini, isn't it? The one that I think that's one Gary had, and that Lynx 8, that Lynx 7 that I've got, and he's thinking of getting one of those. So I had a look at the HP. It's a bit chunkier than the Lynx one, but it gets better battery life. But I mean, it's £79. I mean, did you see the offer last week? I don't know what we talked about last week, where you could get the Toshiba Mini for £59.
I didn't see that. I saw the HP Stream 7 for 75 on the Microsoft Store site, but no, I didn't see the other one.
Yes, I think that it must have been after we recorded last week. I saw that then. Yes, I think it was. It was only on for one day, but it was £59 for the Toshiba Encore Mini. And I think that's the one that Gary tried. I know he's got the Lynx 8, but I think he tried that one. It doesn't look a bad tablet, but for £59 with Office 365 Personal, you're getting a good device.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I think those 7-inch devices, it'd be interesting if the OEMs did something similar to when you bought a compact iPad. I remember buying one, and it came with a guaranteed upgrade to Windows Mobile 5, I think it was. But obviously at the time then, it was that the operating system was on the ROM, and I think I got a DVD or a CD in the post with some special way of flashing the ROM with the new version. So it'd be interesting if they did something like that with the 7-inch ones, whereby you actually got the what they're calling the mobile edition of Windows 10.
Yeah.
Because I think it's going to be interesting. 7-inch devices that do get the upgrade will get the same as the 8-inch or more, but I think it's going to be quite a challenge to use the desktop on a 7-inch tablet.
Yeah, I mean, I have used a desktop on it, and it's fine. You can get on it if you need to, but it works best with the store apps. Definitely. I mean, that's where it sells. I actually like that Lynx 7 for. Perhaps in the morning while I'm having breakfast before I go to work, I just put Tweetium or whatever, and Flipboard or whatever on there, just as and it's a nice little light device just for carrying stuff, for doing things like that on. So I think they will all get the upgrade, won't they, at some point? And I think Joe, we talked about last week, and John Flory said that the existing Intel 7-inch ones will get the access to the desktop. As an upgrade, it will just be the new ones that don't.
Yeah, because I think the true 7-inch and below version of Windows will be something that's installed by the OEM. It's possibly even more traditional mobile in that it's locked into a ROM rather than being installed onto a disk.
Maybe, yeah.
I know there's talk that the 7-inch tablets won't be able to, the true Windows 10 7-inch tablets, you won't be able to install x86 apps. That they will be quite locked down. Just that Windows is very modular these days, and so it's not so much that the processor or the memory won't be capable of running those applications. It's just that potentially that element, other than installing apps from the store, just won't be included.
Yeah, I think so. I think we're going to see 7-inch lockdown devices, no desktop, and then 8 inches running what we currently see now, and then the larger devices that don't come with the free Office, that kind of thing.
Yes, which I still think is potentially a mistake. Time will tell whether or not it's a big one or not, but I think there is a market for 9-inch tablets that are locked down. My mum is the case. She loves the Surface 2. She wouldn't want a 7-inch tablet. It would just be too small for her. But at the same time, the reason why I got the Surface 2 was because I didn't want all the same hassles I get with their desktop PC, where I get a phone call every week saying how slow it is, and so they've installed some new camera software and it's messed up the PC. It's that's just not what I want to deal with, and it's very, other than usability questions, it's very rare I get a problem with the Surface 2.
Rich in the chat room was saying that he still got the GPRS mobile sleeve for the iPack. I've got the SD card one.
Oh yes.
Still around somewhere. I've got that. I think I had SD card one. I think, was there a Wi-Fi one, or did it have Wi-Fi?
I think there was a Wi-Fi one.
I think that's what the one I had as well.
Yeah.
Because they didn't even have a browser, did they, when they first came out? I remember that. They didn't have an Internet Explorer as such because you didn't go on the internet with them.
Yes. Those were the days.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's funny you mentioned that, though, about the RT. I mean, that's one thing that we've already talked about, that Windows RT essentially is no more.
Yes.
And neither is the Surface 2 anymore.
No, or the Lumia 2520, my trusty little device that still gets used quite a bit. Yeah, I mean, I think those devices certainly come to the end of the line. I think I do wonder or not there is some kind of intention that, well, if these things are end of life, then we don't, we've got an excuse. Well, we're not upgrading them because they're not supported anymore. I think that's a bit of a cheap trick in a way, but we already know that they're not going to get the full-blown Windows 10. That hopefully they will get some kind of update. But I've said that I would still plan to keep my Lumia tablet around, but at the same time, I think it's still useful to me, but it is going to get left behind.
Yeah, I mean, just as Rich is saying, he loves his Surface 2. I love my Surface 2, and it's been a fantastic device and served me very well. And the only thing I miss really is some of the, like I said, the video and the audio editing stuff. But that's just for my use. I think for someone like you said, like for family members and my kids, I know that I can give them the Surface 2, and they're not going to. I'm not going to come to it 2 weeks later and come with 20 toolbars and 7 antiviruses and a load of malware on it. It's just going to be clean, and it's not even. It's very easy nowadays if you're downloading shareware to get malware and things on there. I mean, the cesspit of download.com is awful. I mean, it's some horror stories, isn't there? You go on there and you just download legit software, and it's forcing all this extra stuff on there. And the Surface 2 didn't get that. And yes, I know that not many people will be lamenting its demise, but I think for that reason, I will be. And especially, as I know I've mentioned before, this Chromebooks are selling well because they're so simple, and Microsoft currently don't have an answer to that. And maybe there is something in the works. I don't know, a lockdown version, but maybe. I mean, it could even be a switch in the in Windows 10 somewhere that we haven't seen yet, where you can just switch off install Win32 apps and something like that, and then that would that would solve that problem. But yeah, I'm sad to see it go, and the Surface 2 is discontinued, but also the Lumia is going as well.
Yes, yeah, I think it's a very sad thing. But I mean, the one thing that the Surface 2 and the Lumia 2520 had is as I just said in the chat, was the multi-day battery life. I mean, the battery life on the Surface Pro 3 is amazing. I mean, it really is, easily to get all day life out of it, and it will last multi-day, but it won't. It goes into connected standby and then goes to sleep and then goes into a deep sleep. So it achieves multi-day battery life by being off, essentially. Whereas, we've talked about it before, you say with your Surface 2 and I say with my Lumia 2520, it doesn't get a lot of use now, but when it does get used, it's always up to date and it's always got battery. Even if I don't charge it up, if it's not getting used, it will last a good, 4, maybe even 5 days between charges.
Yeah,
and that's still with connected standby. That's still, when I do go to use it, it's still got everything up to date. It's still updated apps in the background, and but I mean, it's going to be interesting. I know that you can't really compare the Surface Pro 3. That's not what it's designed for. But it will be interesting to see with Windows 10 whether or not the Atom-based 10-inch tablets can provide that same connected standby battery life for 2-3 days.
I think that's one thing that just shone so well from the Surface 2 is how well that it worked on that end. Yeah, like you said, the Surface 3 Pro 3 gets good battery life, but it's not the same. No,
and I have to resist responding there, but Paul Saruzza was saying, I told you they were a waste of money. You shouldn't have bought an RT device. But I do feel as in some ways that he kind of misses the point to them that, yes, it is frustrating sometimes, like the Sonos. With my Surface Pro 3, I can just install the desktop version. So yes, I agree that the modern app marketplace isn't as mature as it needs to be to make the Surface 2 or the Lumia 2520 as completely useful as they could be. But at the same time, I think that's overlooking the multi-day battery life, the lockdown features of them, and the fact that it's you can just go to it and it works perfectly. I think it's easy to say that the devices are flawed, but I just think really that the apps just haven't risen to it. The Mail app could be better. If we could get the modern Outlook which looks amazing, onto the Lumia 2520 or the Surface 2, then I think a lot of those negative issues kind of go away.
Yes, I think it's just for the people that have them and understood the limitations, they're very good devices, and I think it's the people that didn't understand limitations and, like we said, the things like Sonos, iTunes. I know Gary said, and I think he talked about this today on Twitter, that one of the number one returns, according to people like John Lewis, for Surface RT was because he couldn't install iTunes on it.
Yes. Yeah.
Had there been an iTunes app in the store, then that wouldn't have been an issue. And had the store been more mature, then that would have been an issue at all. And maybe when we're getting to this universal app model that Microsoft are really pushing now, and maybe that gets a level of maturity, then it becomes something that perhaps could be looked at. I mean, essentially, the 7-inch tablet is going to be that Surface RT model.
Yeah, and I think I kind of hope that in 12 months' time, 18 months' time, we'll look back and actually, and the universal apps will be the real tipping point in terms of Windows, because someone like Sonos, who is reluctant to get into the ecosystem due to the low volumes of sales, but on the other hand, if they can write an app once for what will hopefully be, even if Windows Phone still doesn't necessarily have a massive surge, if Windows tablets take off, then it makes sense for them to write an app, and by writing an app, that app will also work on smaller devices.
Yeah, and of course. And I think also maybe Microsoft are looking to push that universal app model even further than tablets and phones, aren't they? The Internet of Things, and which we'll talk about later, and Xbox, and they really have to. I think they're going to have to put their hand in the pocket and really invest on this, and really find out why a company like Sonos hasn't released their app. I mean, yes, we know that Apple probably won't ever write a modern app for iTunes. And Google won't support modern apps because that's a business decision on them because of hostility to a rival platform. But Sonos, I don't see what's in it for what's the reason why they don't want to do it. And maybe Microsoft. I'm sure Microsoft must be talking to them, because Sonos strikes me as one of those things that a lot of Microsoft employees probably have anyway.
Yeah, although I do think that maybe Microsoft have almost created a lull period with these universal apps, because as a developer that's maybe got limited resources, writing for a limited customer base, actually writing a Windows Phone or even a Windows 8.1 application is actually potentially wasted resources. It makes more sense. Well, it's not great for us, but it does make more sense for someone like Sonos to wait and write a universal app.
Yeah, I think so. Maybe the Windows 10 will usher sort of a range of universal apps into the store.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And we know that BBC are looking at doing universal apps, and even to the point of the Sonos app could even work on the Xbox One. So I think there might well be a quiet period. I think there's also some very clever masterstrokes going on. I think I saw a couple of the American banks have withdrawn their apps. So I think it was Chase started an advertising campaign saying, "Come to us, we've got a Windows Phone app," which that's kind of very clever marketing.
Yeah, and Richard in the chat room saying that he has a contact at Sonos and they're using his customer base.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, but if they expand, if Microsoft said to them, then this works with the Xbox, surely that that would open it up, because if you've got an Xbox and Sonos, there's no way those work together well.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'd like to see Universal app, but yeah, so that's the sad news for this week, that the Lumia tablet and the Surface 2 are no more. And although, yeah, I think you can still buy the Lumia tablet on the Microsoft Store. I don't think you can buy the Surface 2 anymore.
Yeah, and I think it's probably still on the John Lewis store as well.
Yeah.
They were quite good. I mean, that's where I purchased mine for.
I wonder if we'll see those heavily discounted soon. They don't at the moment. They're not.
Yeah, I mean, I ended up buying my Lumia 2520 when I think it was about 150 pounds off. And I think I said at the time, for somebody that's got an LTE 4G network in it, it's that's quite a bargain.
Yeah.
When you compare it to the price of the Surface 2 with LTE, it's quite expensive.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, it was quite very attractive purchase.
Yeah. But I also saw, I didn't just story on this because it was very vague, but a couple of sites have reported seeing a new device showing up, but that's got a fairly high-res screen, but running an ARM processor and Windows, and that it would be some kind of successor to the Lumia. But I don't know whether that's wishful thinking.
Yes, yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, there's just been no. I mean, I can't see Microsoft or the Lumia brand coming out with an ARM tablet. I just can't see it. I could see it's got to be Intel, but apparently this was ARM.
Yeah, it's going to be. I think it's going to be some interesting directions over the next 6-12 months.
Yeah. Just to correct what I said earlier as well, the 7-inch tablet I was talking about, the Toshiba Encore Mini, was £49.
Right.
On eBay. Now, for £49, a full Windows tablet.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. But the offer's gone now. I think it's back to £89.
Yeah. Mind you, that's not as cheap as a Raspberry Pi 2.
Yeah, so a Raspberry Pi 2 that was announced yesterday or Monday, if you listen to this on the podcast. So a second gen Raspberry Pi, or a third really, because it was a revision of the original one, but a new Raspberry Pi, same price. So I think it's £26. Same pin layouts and everything else, but running a quad-core ARM processor. It's got more memory, a lot better processor on it, a lot more power to it. But the main thing is that I was quite surprised is that it's going to support Windows 10.
Yes, I mean, I was quite surprised when I saw the news breaking about the Raspberry Pi 2, because I hadn't appreciated that they were expecting to release one anytime soon. And then when the chat started moving on to Windows 10 and Microsoft announcing they were going to support it, albeit I think it's the cut down, isn't it? Windows 10 for Internet of Things. But
yeah,
I still think that really opens up a market. And again, these little devices, pretty powerful PCs in their own right, if they take off or people just use them to develop apps and tinker with, it's can only help the ecosystem as a whole.
Yeah, I think Microsoft must have seen how they were missing out with the original Raspberry Pi, and it was in education, and it's always running Linux, and then perhaps they wanted to get involved with that, but with the new Raspberry Pi, which is great. But also they do have this new initiative, this Internet of Things, and the Intel's Galileo board, which you can get Windows, I think it's Windows 8.1 Internet of Things version of it for free. You can go on the Internet of Things Microsoft sort of site, sign up and download the image for the Galileo, and you can install Windows on it, and then you communicate over Telnet to it. But what wasn't really very clear was what you could actually do with it through with Windows 10. What they did say, that Windows 10 will be free for it if you're on the Windows Developer for Internet of Things program, and it said later this year. But then I still wasn't sure, and we were joking on Twitter. I did sort of facetiously say, they can't get Windows 10 on the Surface 2, but they can get it on the £26 Raspberry Pi, which I got a bit of stick for. I was only joking. I don't really expect to get the Raspberry Pi and watching Netflix while browsing the web and doing a bit of command prompt on it. But Gary did say you could use command prompt, so maybe that would be my ideal device, a command prompt on the device. But anyway, after a bit of digging, I did see on Scott Hasselman's blog, who knows what he's talking about. He said that the Raspberry Pi will run Windows 10 Universal Apps.
Hmm.
So no desktop on it, but it will run Universal Apps, and developers will be able to, I guess, write Visual Studio and send these apps over, and then you can plug the HDMI in. So going back to the thing with the Universal Apps, and that would be fantastic. So I was talking to Scott on the developer of the Windows Phone Media Browser about this today, and he was saying, well, it'd be great for Windows Media Center on there, but Windows Media Center is never going to be on there, because it's an ARM-powered device, so it's not going to run. But it would run Media Browser as a universal app. So I said to Scott, well, you just need to get your app sorted then. So it's got amazing potential. So you could run Office on it, the universal version of it. You could run Media Browser or Netflix or Skype, or a sensor app or whatever you want, but it has to be a universal app.
Yeah, you can imagine these things as like a kiosk, or with a touch screen hooked up to it for home automation, or a way to tap into Xbox Music or Xbox Video, and I think the opportunities are quite endless.
I mean, that's what last year is one of the things I said Microsoft needs to do, wasn't it? It was a small set-top box that would run Xbox Music and Xbox Video as a way of getting their ecosystem out to more people who don't want to buy a £400 Xbox One. Well, if Xbox Music and Xbox Video are universal apps, then this would be perfect, wouldn't it? You hook up to your TV. It's got USB for controlling it, and I guess you could put a Bluetooth dongle on there if you wanted to. You can connect it up to your network. You can stick an SD card in it, and it's your it's your gateway to Xbox Music and Xbox Video. Or like you said, it could be a home automation app that you're running as a client, or it could be a home automation app as a server, even, because it's whatever you it's whatever you decide to run on it. So I think it's got potential. And then Plex, you can stick Plex on there, stick that to your TV. It's cheaper than the computer that we talked about, the Intel one that we talked about the other week.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's dirt cheap, isn't it?
So I was thinking, I want to get one of these, but there's no point getting one just yet because the Windows version isn't available yet. I guess get close to the release of Windows 10, then we might see that. But so for £26, I think it should. If it's just running a single task, I think it's pretty interesting. And maybe it's a kind of thing. I mean, this is the whole thing with the Internet of Things, isn't it? Maybe Microsoft can talk to TV companies, TV manufacturers, of sticking one of these into their TV as being their smart TV UI, because if it can run universal apps, why not have it so it can run Netflix and all the other things? So you can just switch between it. Yeah, there'll be no desktop, but that's the whole point. It's running single apps. So maybe they can make their own UI and whatever. Smart TV, instead of it being Android TV based, it could be Windows 10.
Yes, yeah. Just as Richard was saying, you walk up to kiosk machines, and it's like, this version of Windows XP hasn't been activated.
Yeah.
I was just about to say, when you see the Waitrose hand scanners with the self-checkouts with a Windows error dialog box on them.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you say, do you want to buy a Raspberry Pi? We can get this working.
Yes, yeah. It does always amuse me when I go to collect one of the Waitrose scanners, and you just see the Windows error dialog box on it.
Yeah. So I think this is great, and it's got a friend who works at Raspberry Pi fan. Oh yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah, that'd be excellent.
That would be very good, because we really don't know exactly what we can do. So yeah, it's a good idea, Richard. You can get that sorted out. But I think it's amazing potential, and for developers, it's fantastic. And I've been playing around with the Arduino and doing some bits and pieces like that. But it's in C, and but this could potentially, with running Windows 10, means I could use my Windows development skills on it. So, like, even if you don't stick it in the store, you just write it and deploy it directly, and it's something to, like you said, to play with and get developers interested in universal apps.
Yes, yeah.
So yeah, a lot of potential there. And I'm looking forward to seeing what the. In fact, it's very good. I'll include a link in the show notes to the Microsoft site for the Internet of Things, because you can get the Galileo board, Intel's Galileo board, which I think is about 40 quid. Gary mentioned it had been reduced. I think you can get it in Maplin amongst other places. And that actually is pin for pin with the Arduino. And looking at the sample source code, is actually virtually line for line compatible with the Arduino source code, but you use Visual Studio. So, there's definitely some possibilities to do, some fantastic sort of teaching and developing some good apps on these devices.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and just to say, a few people said could you run Windows Media Center on it? Well, you won't, because even if Microsoft include Windows Media Center in Windows 10, it's not that SKU, and of course Windows Media Center is desktop Intel based, and it's not going to run because this is an ARM processor. It is ironic though, isn't it, that this week that the two devices that were ARM based have been dropped, and they add support for a device that's ARM based.
Yes, yeah, there's definitely some irony in there. I tell you what, somebody needs to reinvent, and that's a modern app that's a Media Center extender.
Yes, yeah, that's it. Yeah, I mean that's where if a universal app with like Plex could come in, but yeah, just a Media Center extender one would be very good.
Yeah, I mean, if Microsoft just released that into the store, that would be quite successful.
Yeah, just forgotten. It's a bit like the Surface 2; they've forgotten that Media Center exists.
Yeah. Although, unlike the Surface 2, Microsoft have never actually end of life Media Center, not yet.
Oh no, because you can still buy it, can't you?
Yes, yeah, that's what I mean. So never say never.
Oh yeah, I mean there is a chance it'll be included. I know we don't know, but there is a chance still that it'll be included in just as a paid upgrade. But they do seem to be throwing all the codecs into Windows this time, like FLAC support and MKV. So maybe, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
Yes.
What else? Richard says pigs flying. Yeah, where's my Animals album cover? I've got the Pink Floyd Animals behind me somewhere. That's got the pig over Battersea Park power station. That's alongside with Media Center and Windows 10 for ARM. Right, what else? Let's see.
I think what we should talk about, although I haven't still made the jump, but they released an updated video driver for Surface Pro 2 and 3 for users running the Windows 10 build 9926, which had some serious issues, I think, with the graphics driver. But they seem to resolve them pretty quickly, and the barriers are certainly coming down to me being tempted. I was kind of holding on to that as my main excuse. Well, look, there's clearly lots of people having problems, but so far I've managed to hold off. I think the two things I'm still really waiting for my Surface Pro 3 is a touch first browser. I think as soon as the Spartan browser gets released, included in a build, I think that'll be one hurdle. And I think the other thing for me would be, I think, the resizable or more configurable start menu.
Yes, I know what you mean. And for me, it's because it's all shiny at the moment, and I don't want to.
Yes.
I don't know how long that will last.
Yeah, although I did get a response from the virtual PC guy who's works for Microsoft and has been involved with their virtualization products since the Windows virtual PC days. He kind of responded to me on Twitter basically saying that upgrading to Windows 10 wouldn't cause my VMs to require reactivating of the guest operating systems, which was one thing I was worried about.
Right. We need to talk about this as well. Maybe we'll come back to this later, but we need to talk about your VMs.
Yeah.
It's impressive what you've done. I'll tell you one thing I just noticed with the Surface Pro 3 and talking Windows 10 is you can see that the Surface Pro 3 is the device that Microsoft have in mind when I think, well, the perfect device, I think, when they've been developing Windows 10. And some of the design decisions of the Surface Pro 3 make sense when you see Windows 10. For example, the way that the keyboard clips upwards, magnetized up to the screen.
Yeah,
it means that the swiping gestures are virtually impossible from the bottom.
Yes,
but you can do it from the top. But of course, in Windows 10, they kind of go away anyway.
Yes, yeah, and also removal of the charms, where you used to swipe in from the right to get the quick access to the start button.
Yep.
Obviously, it's just perfectly placed for your
Yep.
thumb when you're holding the device as a tablet.
Yeah, and this is exactly what I was thinking when I was using it the other day. That all the things that you wouldn't. Obviously, the Windows 10's been in development for some time. It must have been in development pre-Surface 3, because you can see those design decisions in the Surface Pro 3, even though that Windows 10 hadn't shipped when it was released.
Yes, yeah.
It makes sense. I just noted that, the swipe up is no good, and like you said, the charms. One of the reasons I used to use the charms was to swipe and get the start button, where you don't need to because it's there. So
yeah, and I think I think the new task switcher, I know there's been some talk with regards to the fact that the way it works in Windows 8.1, where you just swipe in from the left, and if you swipe out completely, the application becomes the next active one, or if you swipe it out slightly and back in again, you get the full list of running applications. And I think there's certainly people that are against the fact that's going away, but I do think that with the way they're approaching this with Windows 10, whereby when you swipe in from the right, it's almost like you're doing from the left, it's almost like you're doing the Windows tab gesture, keyboard combination. But I think when you think about it, actually that's the way that most of the other operating systems approach this. For example, on an iPad, you double press the button and it brings up a card based list of running applications. It's the way Windows Phone has replicated that interface. It's the way that Android works. And I think Josh Pollard was saying how frustrated he was the fact that it meant you couldn't switch apps without letting go of the bezel. But I kind of would question that in a way, because 90%, maybe that's a bit of a finger in the air, but a lot of the interactions with the tablet, you're not going to be firmly holding on to the bezel. The way you interact with the tablet is you hold it in one hand and you touch it with the other. So I'm not sure that necessarily that's such a big negative. There are certainly some things, the start menu I think needs to evolve better for tablet mode. But like I say, you can't switch applications in Android or iOS without letting go of the bezel. It's just, you have to touch the screen if you want to do fast task switching. So I think it is the right way they're going. And like I say, the chances are you once you switch applications, you're going to let go of the bezel anyway to interface with that application. So I think it's more natural that your hand gestures end up in the middle of the screen.
Yeah, I'm with Josh on that. That I really like the quick swiping, and I've got used to that, and it works so well on the Surface that I could be typing. I'm left-handed anyway. Maybe that's why part makes it easier for me. I could type it away, and I will switch apps, and I just have to lift my hand slightly and flick and switch apps very quickly. But in Windows 10, it's not quite as smooth, but I can understand why, because if you gave if you give Windows 8.1 to somebody who isn't familiar with it, they probably will never discover that feature. And certainly the thing of putting your finger in then back again is not something you would do out of. You're not an action that you would just do, is it? You've got to know about it, and it's not as discoverable. Whereas in Windows 10, it is more discoverable. You bring it across, you can see everything that's running. Sometimes when I do switch it, I do find myself going 1, 2, 3, 4. Whoops, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I do task past it sometimes, and especially when you're doing stuff on the desktop. Sometimes I forget I'm in desktop mode, and I've got Internet Explorer open in one window and say Word, and then I task switch with my finger to bring up back to the Internet Explorer, but of course that's the desktop, so it flicks to a different app, and so there is that confusion. Whereas in Windows 10, there is no confusion. You switch in, you see all the active windows, whether it's a desktop app or not, and then you just switch to it. And I think people that have got used to it, like me and Josh, it's just one of those things you're gonna have to live with, because it's for the greater good.
Yeah, and I do agree with a lot of the things that Josh said. I think you made an excellent post with regards to all the things that are, going to require us to relearn it. But I think the underlying problem here is that the people like us that actually fell in love with Windows 8 and actually, don't like the direction we're going. Unfortunately, we're in the minority. It's the people that are really going to experience, or hopefully experience, Windows 10 will have been the ones that hated Windows 8 and will have skipped it. So they won't have that muscle memory, and they won't have that old experience. And if they did have the old experience, they hated it anyway. So I think changing things up is the right way to go. But like I said, I think he did have some good suggestions. For example, why should I have to tap the down arrow to get all apps? Why can't I just scroll and it just be an endless scroll? I think that makes some perfect sense.
For me, you should just be able to swipe up and it brings that list up. It just feels a natural way of doing it, which is probably what they will do. It's early days yet.
Yeah. And I think it's funny actually. I initially was against the way that the recently used app stays on screen when it's a full screen start menu, but actually even in a full screen start menu, I think that there are times when I want an app that I haven't pinned to the start screen, but it would be useful just to be able to quickly access them. So I'm a bit 50-50 on that one, I think.
Yeah. I think overall Windows 8.1 on a tablet is a cleaner experience than Windows 10 currently is on a tablet, but it is early days, and I think some of the compromises are being made for the greater good, and maybe the power users lose out a bit, but we can cope.
I tell you what, my biggest thing that I'm so pleased about with Windows 10 when I've been playing around with it is that you can actually now place icons, place tiles where you want them, just like you can with Windows Phone. I'm so glad they've carried that across, and if that goes away again, I think I might shed a tear.
Yeah, it's actually I'd like to see the Windows 10 style, Windows Phone style tile placement, and live folders, and that kind of elegance. As Rich is saying that Windows 10's a bit ugly. In tablet mode, it is a bit of that start screen. It's a bit raw at the moment. I think it's very early days. It's just I'd like to see more Windows Phone influence on it, but we'll give it time and see how it goes.
And of course, it's interesting that the Surface Pro 2 and 3 are the only devices that have the automatic switch between tablet and desktop mode.
Yeah,
so it just shows that it's going to be the OEMs that need to support that functionality.
Yeah, I was going to say that's what they said, isn't it? I think the OEMs need to do it, but it's no great really issues to switch it, I guess. But yeah, it would be better if. But there's not that many devices, I suppose. I mean, I've just recently reviewed the Switch 10, and I think that would be one of those devices that should be able to do that. But it would be up to, in this case, Acer having an updated driver.
Yeah. I think. I mean, I do wish. I think I'd have a stronger opinion one way or another with Windows 10 if I actually got to use it, and that's what's really tempted me to put it onto the Surface Pro 3. I mean, we've got it on a laptop and a desktop, but I don't go use near them anywhere near as much as the Surface Pro 3. And while I could build a VM with it on, it's not the same it's not the same experience at all. So I'm still holding fire.
Yeah. Talking Windows Universal Apps, did you see that Plex? You're not a Plex user, but I use it quite a bit actually now. Plex are discontinuing support for Windows Phone 8 because they want to keep everyone on a Universal app.
Right.
So currently, I think it is a universal. It's certainly one of those. I know there's a bit of a not discrepancy, but there's not 100% clarity between the different types of Universal apps, because I know that when I did the TDL app, there is actually two separate apps, but they're linked in the store. So you purchase once. I mean, they're both free anyway, but if you were paid, you would only pay for it once. And Plex, if you buy the Windows Phone version, you get it for Windows Desktop. So I think they've got a Universal app, but what they said is they're discontinuing the support for Windows Phone 8. So I guess that they must have two versions, version 8 and version 8.1, and that's for Universal app support.
Right.
Because Windows 8 Phone 8 doesn't support Universal apps.
Yeah, it's we talk about fragmentation of Android. I think Windows Phone's becoming a very complex.
Although there is less, I guess there's not that many Windows Phone 8. Most people have got 8.1 of them.
Well, yeah, I guess if their carriers authorised it, I mean, the Verizon, then certainly not.
Yeah. I know there's other app news as well. Which is also Universal. Have you tried the Outlook preview on a non-Windows device yet?
Sorry, say that again.
Have you tried the Outlook preview app for iOS, or you've not got the Android device?
No, I haven't. No.
Yeah, it's just it's very nice actually. I think we talked about it last week, didn't we? So
yeah, because this integrates the Acompli code base, doesn't it? So, and I suspect that's going to be the Windows modern app as well. But yeah, I mean, I saw some screenshots, etc., and it definitely looks really nice.
Yeah, I've been playing with it on my iPad and the Android phone, and it's now my preferred email client on those devices.
Yes, yeah. So I think that was definitely a really good purchase on behalf of Microsoft.
Yeah. What else? VLC for Windows Phone has been updated now. Has better FLAC support. They keep updating that, which is good to see.
Yes, that one never did make it to Windows RT, did it?
No, I don't think ever will now. Although it is a universal app, I guess.
Yes. Yeah.
And also, I don't know whether by the time this goes out, then whether we'll actually have a chance to play with Windows Phone 10, because the rumor was that it's due tomorrow, but I think that is just a rumor, isn't it? With no evidence. I say tomorrow, I mean Wednesday.
Yeah, I mean they mentioned after the Super Bowl, didn't they? So we're certainly kind of getting into that time frame. But yeah, I've not seen anything concrete in terms of when we might expect it, or even any kind of hints. But as I mentioned in the chat room, I think that's the one I'm going to really struggle to restrain myself in terms of putting it onto my Lumia 930.
Yeah, I think I'm the same thing. I mean, I've got that old HTC phone, but I think it would be perfect for this 1520, because as demonstrated during the keynote, that's the device they were using. So yeah, I'm very tempted to get that.
Yes, yeah, especially with that floating keyboard.
Yes, it'd be perfect for that one. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
The other app news that I did mention, the Dropbox app's been updated, and that now supports Windows 10 better than it did previously.
Yeah, I mean that's an official app, isn't it? But written by a Windows Phone community developer.
Yeah.
Sorry, name escapes me. But yeah, that's. I mean, gosh, I wish more companies would engage with the community in that way. I mean, I know banking apps is that's almost impossible line to cross. But surely Sonos could engage with someone like that. The guy that's written the Phonos app.
Phonos, yeah, just give him some money. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it could do with some polish, but ultimately it does have a lot of the controls in it.
Yeah, it does. I think actually I've been that's generally what I use. Although I do tend to, if I know I'm going to listen to some music, and I generally just leave the iPad around and use that. But of course now I can run it on the Surface Pro 3 with the desktop one. But in fact, the funny thing is I've also got it on the 7-inch tablet as well, and it's not the best UI on a 7-inch tablet.
No, I don't think it's got. It's certainly. I doubt it's got very good scaling.
Yeah, but it works. So that's another reason why maybe Microsoft don't want desktop apps on 7-inch devices. That experience isn't brilliant. And Rich has complained about OneDrive. I tell you what, you remember we talked about OneDrive, and now they changed the OneDrive approach from being the sort of the link files, the smart files, to being the sort of on-off folder thing.
Yeah.
Actually, I think when I've been using the really limited devices like the Link 7, it actually makes more sense in a way, because you can be very careful over what gets synced over when you're on a device with limited storage. See, on the Surface Pro 3, it doesn't matter because there's loads of storage, but on Links with 32 gig storage, and some of the other ones have got 16, haven't they? So you really don't want, you want the minimum of things being brought down. So even the placeholder files you don't want there, and you can be very selective, and you can just pick one folder that will be on the Link 7. So what I've done on my OneDrive is created a folder for the Link 7. So anything I know I want to share with the Link 7, I put in that folder, but that's only things I keep in there, so to keep it as light as possible. And I can actually see how the OneDrive in Windows 10 makes some sense in a way on those devices.
Yeah, and I think there is also some potential pitfalls with doing the place. I mean, I was a big fan of them, and I really liked the fact you could see the structure of your complete OneDrive, but it would only take on these smaller devices with only 32 gig storage, for example, if you were to install a Pictures app that didn't understand placeholders, that could trigger actually downloading the images that you haven't selected to be offline, but it could draw down the full images, and before you know it, that's taken up quite a bit of space. So I can certainly imagine how it's created a number of technical issues to overcome. I mean, like you with my Surface Pro 3, it just automatically selected to download all files. So I've got a complete copy of my OneDrive offline. And I think, on the 7-inch devices, that's going to become less of an issue because there'll be a modern app that allows you to view and browse your entire OneDrive anyway. But yeah, I don't know. It's like most things, isn't it? The placeholder files are probably more useful to technical people, and they're the people that really notice it when it's gone.
Yeah, and it was a much more sophisticated solution. But again, perhaps with this theme of Windows 10 being appealing to a wider demographic, that it makes it much easier to understand. Without the placeholders. Rich is putting some choice.
Rich clearly feels very strongly about the whole OneDrive.
Yeah, it's fair to say Rich is not that keen on OneDrive in Windows 10. Yes, he's not very keen on it. I'll let listeners go to the chat room and have a look what Rich has said. But again, probably people like Richard are the people that like the placeholder ones. But then for a non-techie that couldn't understand why it says the file's there, but when you're on a plane and you try to double click on the file, why doesn't it work?
Yes.
I thought when they introduced it, it was a mistake, and they should at least give them the option to have both ways. But in some ways, it makes sense to have it very simple. And yes, it's the lowest common denominator, but if it's simple and it works, then and you don't run into replication issues, then I can see why I do it. But I just noticed on the Stream 7, I think it would have made sense. It's just the especially it was when I was doing the not the Stream 7, when I was doing the Toshiba Encore 8 Mini when I had Windows 10 on it.
You just got too many devices, Ian.
I have. Yes. Yeah, now my son wants to add to the collection one of his own.
Yeah, we've seen that his Surface RT has been end of life, so now he wants something else.
Yeah, I mean, he's sat there with his HP laptop and his Surface and his Lumia, and he's going, I really need a tablet. I wonder where he gets that from.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah, can't find your jeans. Okay, what else? I'll briefly mention. Oh, there were a couple of other things on media-wise. There's a new version of Kodi 14.1 Helix released, which is a maintenance release for the operating system that's or the media system formerly known as XBMC. So that's you can try that new version, and there's a new version of OpenELEC that supports that as well. So you can give that a try. So you can stick that on your new Raspberry Pi, because I think the OpenELEC now supports Raspberry Pi 2 as well. So it gives you an excuse. I also last week posted the video of the Netgear Air Card, which I know you commented it's something you were looking at.
Yes, I mean I've got a Huawei. I think however you pronounce it. Huawei. Yeah, I've got the 3G similar kind of device, and I use that quite a bit because where I was working in Peterborough, the EE signal was terrible, so I had a 3 SIM in it, but it would have been quite nice to get the 4G signal. So I was looking at that device, partly for the 4G, partly for the I think it supports 15 devices instead of the 5 that my one currently supports. So yes, I was pleased to see your review of that, because I was getting very, very tempted to purchase one of those. Although they're not that cheap, are they?
No, it's £100. Yeah. And it's something that your Lumia does very nicely, but as I said in the video, it does mean that you've got a separate device, so it's not draining the battery on your phone, and you can have a separate SIM card. So if you've got a data tariff, whatever, you can split that out. So it does give you a bit more flexibility.
Yes, yeah, because I mean that's one thing I've really felt. I think when on record as saying I really didn't understand the need for an LTE antenna inside the tablet, but because I got spoilt with the Lumia 2520, it's one of the things you just become accustomed to and just used to it being there. And of course, with the Surface Pro 3, if you're out and about, it hasn't got signal unless it's tethered to something. So, like I said, I've been making a lot of use of the 3G mobile broadband hotspot. So I was really tempted to go up to the 4G one, particularly when you're streaming music. 3G sometimes doesn't quite cut it.
Now, finally, then, so I did say I'd ask you about your Surface. So we've only got about a minute left anyway, but I just want to ask you. So you're using SQL, doing SQL development and things. So what is it you've got on your Surface Pro 3?
So yeah, I've been because I was coming to the end of a contract, so I was trying to brush up on my SQL 2012 and 2014 skills. And part of the reason why I wanted the Surface Pro 3 was because it could be a tablet in somewhat compromised form with the massive, slightly large 12-inch screen. But yeah, so I've been building various VMs on it, and I think on the one hand, it's important to point out the fact that because it's a Core i7, so it's nothing that any Core i5, Core i7 system couldn't do. But I do sense feel a bit of achievement having got 3 different versions of SQLs, all SQL Server, all clustered. So with an Active Directory VM and a nice SCSI VM and a failover SQL cluster, and using iSCSI shares and using SMB shares and using shared virtual disks. So yes, I've got quite the network up and running, but I say it can run quite warm when I've got all those going, particularly when Windows updates start to get installed.
But it just shows you what the power of a device like the Surface Pro 3. You've got that flexibility, and then you can still throw it in your bag, and it's hardly any weight.
Yeah, and on the one hand, I'm sitting on the sofa, using it in tablet form, and then flick into the desktop mode, and I've got all these virtual machines running on it. I mean, the one limitation with this, I would have quite liked the top of the range Surface Pro 3 to have had 16 gig of RAM as an option. I think that would have been quite nice. So the one area is limited, is everything's very tight on memory. But one of the things I've always loved about Windows 8.1 was the fact that it includes the server grade versions of Hyper-V. So it supports dynamic memory. So I've got VMs configured with 2 gig, but if the running operating system only needs 512 meg of memory, then that's all it has. So it means you can run many more VMs than you would normally be able to.
That's an impressive setup. And so I think if anybody's interested in the SQL side of it, they should definitely contact you and speak to you about that, because I think it's an impressive setup. Yeah,
definitely. And I'll definitely have to give a shout out to Jonathan Kalas, who is a big SQL Server MVP. And he's done a lot of the blog posts that I followed in terms of getting this iSCSI system up and running and installing SQL onto the VMs. But yeah, it's definitely. I mean, it's great to have that kind of tool for me to learn new skills and and also demonstrate things on. But at the same time, it's a tablet. One moment I'm demonstrating that, the next minute I've flipped it around and using it and writing on the screen with my pen.
yeah, it is good for that. And yeah, we'll talk more about that next week. Gary did say he would try and join us, but I think he's at a Sony event tonight. So
yeah, he's too busy watching that 4K telly, I think.
Yeah. Oh, and we do have a guest next week. It's a surprise for you as well. Mr. Ed Bott will be joining us next week.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, no, it'd be fantastic to have him back onto the show. And I believe he was one of the people there at the HoloLens demonstration.
Right. Yeah, so we'll find out more about that. So we'll be back at 8 o'clock next Tuesday evening with Ed Bott, and we'll hear from Gary on his trip to Sony. And we'll be back next week, 8 o'clock. Like I said, we're on the podcast, on our YouTube channel. So don't forget to check out our YouTube channel, because I'm going to get more videos on there. Now I can edit them easily, but can't say it.
Is that a welcome to Ian Dixon Plays Digital Lifestyle?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So yeah, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at DatabaseJace.
And then Gary's at Gary WMA. And I'll include a link to Fascinating Tech and everything else that he's got on in the show notes. Well, Jace, thanks very much for joining us this week. That was really great. I really enjoyed that. And thanks to everybody who joined us in the chat room, even with Richard's choice words for OneNote. And we'll see you next week.
Yes. Cheers. Thanks, Ian.